Hi, welcome to another edition of Give Me a Word, where we do a deep dive into God's Word and hopefully discover some things that will help you appreciate or think about it in ways that you never have before. Hebrews 12:2 is the passage. It says, "Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God." When anyone initiates a new, huge endeavor, the passion to succeed is strengthened if you can keep your eyes on the goal in front of you. For example, when an athlete starts a race, they will tell you, put your eyes on the goal. Where are you trying to go? What are you trying to do? If you're trying to shoot a bow or arrow, you're trying to line up that arrow and you go off of your target, and then you adjust accordingly as you fire the arrow. And so we go back to the moment in Hebrews 12:2 where there's a description that's written here by the author of Hebrews that is important to know about Jesus. Because this is what Jesus was focused on when he was hanging on the cross and enduring the agony and the shame that we associate with Easter and his crucifixion. Can you imagine what you and I would have thought of if we were going through what he went through? Can you imagine the pain and the agony and how it would hurt and how many times we would think to ourselves, man, I need to do something else, and this isn't fair and this isn't right? All those thoughts would be a part of what we would think because, well, we're us, we're human. But the description we have in Hebrews is different than that. Hebrews 12:2 tells us very clearly, "For the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand throne of God." In other words, this verse says that what Jesus was focused on was the joy that was set before him as he endured the cross. Jesus was looking ahead into the future, and what that means is that he saw you and he saw me. And he saw a moment that would come when we would choose to follow him. And that brought him joy. He would see those moments where we would get it right and we would live and become that best version of ourselves, and it brought him joy. He would see moments when we were faithful, even after we've struggled. And he would smile, and that would bring him joy. And the word joy in Greek has a definite article, which means that this wasn't just joy in general, but it was a specific joy. The verse goes on to describe in specifics the finish line that Jesus set his face like flint toward. He set his face toward what was going to happen in front of him, and he endured the cross and eventually sat down at the right-hand throne of God. He had his eyes fixed upon what was going to happen, where he was going, and fulfilling the task that he came here to do and he set out to do. And so Jesus had a goal, and he set his eyes on that goal, and that was the joy of knowing you and me, and the joy of knowing he was being obedient, the joy of knowing what was going to happen to us, and the joy of knowing what he was accomplishing. All of that kept him moving. It helps us to kind of think sometimes maybe in our life, what is it that we're aiming at? What keeps us motivated to stay on track? What will it look like when you finish? What are we doing with the faith and the opportunities that God gives us? When the final chapter of our life is written, what will we have done because Jesus asked us to do it? In other words, what is the specific joy that is set before you? What is it that you're looking toward as you move through life each day? What is it you're doing each day as you get up and start pushing into the day? Jesus in this verse is described in a way that is very, very unique, because it talks about the fact that there was something out there that brought him joy, and there was a joyful reward that was waiting for him, the satisfaction of knowing that he had done everything he was purposed to do. I'm not a big person on making resolutions and making promises as New Year's start and things like that. I think that's kind of silly. But I am a big advocate of making sure that you set your right direction in your life and you keep focused on what it is you're trying to go, and you allow that directional finder of your heart to keep moving you in the right way. This is a verse that reminds us that for Jesus, his direction was joy in completing the task that God had called him to do. And that's what Hebrews 12:2 is talking about. And it reminds us of just how much we're loved. And even though we think that sometimes we don't measure up and we don't get it right, but for Jesus, he looked at what we were going to become and what was going to happen to our lives because of him, and it brought him joy. And it was just a part of all those things that he experienced in the midst of what was a very dark time and pain and suffering on Calvary. What kept him going was he was able to endure the cross because his eyes were fixed, and for the joy that was set before him was willing to endure it. He loves you a lot. He loves me a lot. Now it changes everything. And that one little phrase tucked into the book of Hebrews in the 12th chapter sometimes explodes off the page at me, and it reminds me that I need to do a better job making sure I keep my directional finder aimed at what it needs to, and that I find joy in the journey. And so take that to heart. Find joy in your journey. And I look forward to joining you next time as we dig in once again. Give me a word.